Alright guys, Sci-Fi Guy 2094 here. We have some great news in the world of sci-fi. If you've been paying attention, you know that Michael Bay is returning for Transformers 8. Now, some people are like, they're optimistic, some people are skeptical. Now, let's start, let's get the bad out of the way first. Let's hear the skepticism. People say, okay, well, after the first film, the films kind of sucked after that with Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, Age of Extinction, and Last Night. I understand what you guys are talking about, but let's just say after Dark of the Moon they kind of went down. Let's kind of meet in the middle, okay? Now we can say the first Transformers is obviously the best one. You can't really dispute that. Again, I'm talking about the original 5 films, um, not counting the reboot, the soft reboot starting with Bumblebee, and then Rise of the Beast. So if we're talking about the original 5 films, yes, Transformers, the original, is the best. Okay, I I quite liked Revenge of the Fallen. To be honest, I thought Revenge of the Fallen was decent. Um, Dark of the Moon was, mm, from what I remember, wasn't too bad. See, after a while, they all kind of blend together. The first film is very distinct, and then you have the Fallen, which it's like, okay, you have basically Megatron returning, and then you have the Autobots versus the Fallen. And then after that, they kind of tend to blend together with just like, a bunch of other Decepticons fighting the Autobots. But I think it's universally accepted that Age of Extinction and Last Night were not really good entries into the franchise. So some people are like, okay, well, Michael Bay's coming back and he's directed all those films which are so bad, it's not going to be good for Transformers. Okay. So that's one viewpoint. Now the other viewpoint is the positive viewpoint, which is Michael Bay, regardless of what you think of his directing style, those movies made hella cash. Like, let's just be honest. Like, those were like $1 billion hits. Pretty sure. I believe it was Dark of the Moon grossed over $1 billion. Possibly Age of Extinction. I know Last Night didn't. And then when they were just starting out with the first film, Transformers, it definitely didn't gross $1 billion. It made its profit, made its budget back. And then the second film was very profitable. Basically, they were all very profitable except for Last Night. So Paramount is thinking, okay, well, with these rebooted films not doing too well, starting with Bumblebee, it's critically acclaimed as like the best film by fans, by audiences, by critics. But unfortunately, it didn't blow up the box office in terms of profit. So Paramount's like, okay, well, look at this Michael Bay guy. He's still a producer on these films because he was a producer on Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast. He just didn't really direct the films. He wasn't like super involved with the direction. He was just like a producer. So Paramount's like, okay, well, we need to revitalize this franchise because even with Transformers 1, the animated film, which was actually a pretty good film, I rather enjoyed that one as well. Unfortunately, it didn't make any money at the box office, despite it being a really good film. Some people think, oh, well, the brand is tarnished because of, so many bad movies. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. Maybe it's not. But, if we're talking about money, Paramount is looking at Michael Bay and they see a big money sign because they see that he directed those films in the 2000s and the 2010s, and they're like, okay, well, we need some more money, so let's bring Michael Bay back. Now, I think this could go one of two ways. It could bomb because people are just like, okay, I don't care if Bay is back, I'm just done with Transformers, and the film could bomb. Personally, I don't see that happening because even though Rise of the Beast, which is a very good film in my opinion, I love this one. I saw it at the theater. It's great. I loved Beast Wars and I grew up on that, so I had to go see it. So even though it underperformed, it wasn't a box office bomb, you know? So I don't believe that Michael Bay returning is going to be worse for the Transformers franchise. I think it could only help the franchise with Michael Bay returning in the director's chair. Like I said, he served as a producer on Bumblebee, which was directed by Travis Knight, as well as a producer on Rise of the Beast, which was directed by Stephen Caple Jr. One thing I do not want to see is G.I. Joe. Okay, the G.I. Joe movies, again, they are Paramount properties, but those films kind of suck, so I don't want to see Transformers merging with G.I. Joe because I just think G.I. Joe has like no place in the Transformers film. We gotta get these films set up really well. You know, they have the soft reboot. Let's get our characters established. You know, they're going more for like the Gen 1 aesthetic with Optimus and Bumblebee. And then in the sequel, you know, they met Primal and Maximals. So let's get these guys established first. And actually, it's not just let's get them established first and then let's bring in these other people. Personally, let's not even do G.I. Joe. That's how I feel about this whole situation because G.I. Joe movies are awful. They suck. They're so bad. Terrible acting. You know, they have people like The Rock and Channing Tatum, which are like the worst actors in Hollywood. And honestly, the scripts are just, yeah, they suck badly. So let's keep G.I. Joe out of it, okay? Now, what would we do for Transformers 8 if Michael Bay is coming back? Well, I guess you could consider this. Well, they could consider it, well, maybe it's going to be Transformers 3, because maybe it's going to be the third film in the trilogy, because, again, Bumblebee is a soft reboot. So I guess think of Bumblebee as the first film, think of Rise of the Beast as the second film, and then think of Transformers, whatever they're going to call it, Transformers Unicron or whatever the case may be. Think of that as the third film. Now, are they going to face Unicron? You know, after we saw what happened in the second film in the reboot series with Rise of the Beast, are they actually going to face off against Unicron? Or is there going to be some other villain, you know? Are we going to see Megatron first, you know, and then maybe in a fourth film, who knows, you know? I don't think they're going to use Galvatron again because we already saw Galvatron in the fourth film, Age of Extinction. So in this new timeline, maybe after Rise of the Beast, we're going to see a classic battle against Autobots and Decepticons, which, like a full scale, kind of like throwing back to the original film from 2007. I'd be down with Michael Bay coming back to direct. Hopefully the script is really good. I really like the original film. It's my favorite film in the franchise, the original 07 film. I mean, I was a kid in middle school. It's a simplistic plot, so it's not like it was hard for me to understand. But even though I was a kid, I was like, this movie is so badass. Like, it's simple, right? You know, you have the Autobots that want to defend the Earth from the Decepticons who want to take over, and they don't believe humans, you know, have the right to live. They just want to make this Cybertron and turn all mechanical objects into new Decepticons. The Autobots have to stop them. I love that film. You got the great soundtrack from Linkin Park, which was a band I really liked back in the day. I was in middle school, so seventh grade. It was just, it was awesome. Nostalgia is just so heavy with me for that film. So bringing Bay back, I hope he kind of, I mean, it is a reboot. So if we want to revisit the classic Autobots versus Decepticons from like the first film, I think that'd be fine. Because again, this is a new timeline. So hopefully we could get like a classic G1 Megatron design, since they are doing the G1 designs for the Autobots. Like, as you can see, classic G1 design for Optimus and Bumblebee. He's actually like the Beetle Volkswagen. So I think that's cool. Um, Personally, I'm all for it. I would love to see just like a showdown between Megatron and Optimus in this new timeline. With it being rebooted, they don't necessarily have to follow the continuity. Obviously, that's the point of a reboot. They don't have to follow the continuity of the previous films where he's like frozen in the ice. I mean, if they wanted to, they possibly will do that, but they don't have to. In this new timeline, Megatron could be in outer space, and he comes to Earth for energon harvesting or whatever the case may be. Um, maybe he's basically coming to Earth because he found out the Autobots have come here to recoup their forces and make a game plan and return to Cybertron to continue the war. Maybe he wants to come and disrupt their operations, so they can't make it back to Cybertron. Whatever the case may be. I think that's a better option, because otherwise they have to follow the continuity of, okay, well, now we have to get Megatron, we have to get him thawed out of the ice in a few years, which is like, you don't have to follow that anymore. I mean, there could be Decepticons that are plotting that, but you don't have to follow that continuity, not in this new timeline. So, personally, I think it's better if he has a ship, and him and some other Decepticons come to Earth and search for the Autobots. I mean, it would be kind of like Bumblebee, which was the first film in the new timeline. But I still think they could do something different enough, and it could still be a good film. Would we want to see Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox back? Obviously, as somebody who grew up with the original film, that would be a dream come true to see them back. But again, these guys wouldn't be teenagers in high school. The whole appeal of this back in the day, when you're a kid watching this in middle school, is like, whoa, these are like high school kids, and they're getting involved in this like alien intergalactic war. It's so cool. I mean, that was so cool to me. So the only thing is they wouldn't be teenagers now. So are they going to bring them back for nostalgia? Hey, I mean, honestly, if they were to do that, I wouldn't complain. You would have me in that seat on opening weekend for Transformers. If they were to bring back Megan Fox and Shia LaBeouf. By the way, Megan Fox was like the hottest chick back in the day. Like, every guy's crush was Megan Fox. It was just like, she was just that girl, you know what I mean? So she was just like the hottest one. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the new Transformers direction going forward. I will certainly be supporting the film as long as you keep G.I. Joe out of it. I'm not a big fan of the crossover. So, again, I just love Transformers. I'm actually glad Michael Bay's coming back. Say what you want about the guy, his direction style, but, it's very unique. He made the Transformers seem larger than life. He brought them to life in such a meaningful way back in the day when, these big blockbusters were coming out. You had Transformers, you had the Dark Knight films, you had like the third Men in Black in like 2012 or 2013. You know, you had those Pirates of the Caribbean films back in the day. I mean, his blockbusters with these Transformers were just so awesome, and I just really enjoyed those films. So, you have my money, Paramount. I will definitely be in the theater watching Transformers because I just love the franchise that much. Because it's something I grew up watching. So anyway, comment down below, what do you guys think about Michael Bay returning to the Transformers franchise? Are you excited? Do you not like it? And we'll have a conversation about where we think the Transformers franchise is going to go in the future with Michael Bay returning. Personally, I'm very excited for it.